told with Liesl. Listen, Liesl, to Grandpa's tale, to be told ages hence. When you are grown up and I am gone, near 70 and 5, I am worn out and old. Yours at 5 is all innocence and ease. Listen, Liesl, to Grandpa's tale. When you came among us on earth, a rainbow was born across the sky. Mine will be lost in the clouds when I leave you, Liesl dear.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Founders Decoded podcast. Today we have Liesl Vaidya, founder of IMERA, and previously co-founder of Leda Health. One of the most things that I felt when I was talking to her is like she's very social impact-based founder. Both her startups focus on social cause. One is on immigration, helping immigrants to get settled in US, especially students who doesn't know how to get settled in US, as well as in her first startup, she has been helping sexual abused people with rape kits and other mental health software so that they could get better. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Also, that's my old apartment that I lived in when COVID hit.
Oh,
Thank you for having me on this podcast. Excited to chat.
thank you. Thank you very much. Today we are driving through New York City. So currently we are in Brooklyn. Oh,
Actually,
Long Island, sorry.
we're in Queens. We're in Long Island City. I've called Long Island City home for the past 6 years.
Wow. Like, why Long Island City? Because, like, I'm Brooklynite.
Yeah. Well, Queens, home for a lot of immigrants. But also, you kind of get to get away from the city, from Manhattan, and you get a little bit extra room when you're away from the city. And it's very close by. And I live just a few blocks away from the park by the water. It's really nice. It's residential. A lot of families and people with dogs. And
I'm an old guy at heart. That's what my friends say. Think, like, I still haven't explored Queens as much as I did Brooklyn because I moved to New York starting of this year.
oh, I thought you were still in New Jersey.
No. I was from San Francisco.
Okay.
So I was like it's okay. Yeah. My uncle lives in New Jersey, so it's fine. So I like Brooklyn in a way, like Bushwick. Bushwick has its own like personality, and every neighborhood in Brooklyn has its own personality. I felt like you could drive anywhere in Brooklyn, but it's not the correct way to live in New York. FYI,
That's why, you have me,
yeah.
Ginger Princess, all the time. I don't know how to drive unless it's a video game. So, yeah, perfect for someone who can rely on the subway system here.
Thank you. I will rely on subway system for like on weekdays traffic is nightmare. So
Yeah. And sometimes, it breaks down and they're not on for a few months, but despite that, it's decent. Outside of that, it's decent.
yeah, I agree. Oh, let's talk about Leda Health and IMERA. Like, how did your journey start with IMERA? And
Yeah, so I started working on
Turning left onto Queens Plaza North.
or really came up with the idea alongside my co-founder Nika. And essentially, all of it really goes back to both of our individual experiences immigrating to the US. I came here 10 years ago from Nepal as an international student, and, like many others, had to figure out a whole lot of things on my own. And when you move to a different country, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes you find out a lot of information that actually could be life-changing
Yeah.
or in a lot of different ways at the wrong time or a little too late.
Yeah.
And essentially, so I went to college in upstate New York, and right after college, I moved to New York City and co-founded my last company. I was on a student visa when all of that happened, right? So that's quite a bit challenging, what you can and can't do. Can you start a company? How much can you own? Like, there's just so many questions, and there's a massive lack of clarity and guidance. And there's also a lot of wrong guidance,
Misleading information,
which in the long run can be detrimental. But yeah, went on that entire journey, navigated a bunch of different visas, like the O1 multiple times. And so, skipping a bunch of things, but fast forward to last year when I decided to take a step back from my previous company, I was reminded of the fact that I am still an immigrant in this country all over again, because I had 60 days to leave. My visa was still tied to my last company, and I was very lucky because I had built this network of people and individuals who had navigated a whole lot of things and knew the right people and knew the right information. So I got my visa situated quite quickly. It was very stressful, but and I learned at that time that there were so many more different options available that gave you so much more flexibility, which I had no idea existed at that time, when I'm living in this country. So after I got myself situated from, an immigration standpoint, I started also helping a lot of other founders, friends there, and just people who work at tech in general, with their visas, guiding them towards something like the O1 or educating them about different if you didn't get selected in the lottery system, there are uncapped H-1B programs. So basically I started guiding them around all these options. And at that time there were a few people who I helped who would ask me if I wanted to start an immigration tech company in this space. I was quite ready at that time. It's very much so processing and coming out of this very long and heavy journey that I'd been on before. For that, I took some time to really reflect, think about what I wanted to do next. I did some consulting at that time as well with a number of funds. Earlier this year, essentially, I connected with God, who I had met a few years ago through one of my previous investors. She used to work. And the first time we met, essentially, I remember chatting to her for a very long time. Immediately, flights, but also we were chatting very much about immigration and the challenges. She here with her family through the diversity lottery settled 10 years ago, right? And we just had so much to talk about. So I spent time after that for the years, all of us talk about immigration. So earlier this year when I did, we're chatting about immigration. I'm so angry, I just came out of this journey and I'm exploring what's next for me. I've been helping all these people, and she has
In a half mile, turn right onto First Woodland North.
She's just very passionate about the subject as well, as she had been, and she also had told me that she was actually going to be investigating, and she wants to a startup. So after we just started talking, and before we knew it, we had this idea.
In a quarter mile, turn.
It's a very interesting story because as a fellow immigrant to US,
In 700,
I always get into panic mode whenever there is an issue. And that is I felt it would be really helpful. That's one of the first things, I said, if it is available, I would definitely do it. I think this would work. That's what the first thing that I said to you as well. And never thought how immigration is changing people's lives.
Right
If
onto East
you
60th
don't
Street
see the options that are available with you, you're ready to pack your bags and go. And again, you basically start over, and you're.
But for people who actually end up coming here, for a lot of them,
Yeah.
their family sacrificed so much for you to be here, right?
Yeah.
Or like both of us and or so many others.
Yeah.
So the idea of like potentially having to pack your bags and go home.
In 800 feet, turn right onto 3rd Avenue.
That's, yeah, like you said, it can cause a lot of panic. And every time something goes wrong, or if you don't have a clear answer, like, yeah, you just start panicking.
Yeah. I think it will be really good startup because given that like what state of current immigration is in, as well as like what state of students are in, because how AI is changing things like daily, and how many unemployed people there are there in the market, like who don't know how to approach jobs, and because they're from other country. Like I sit in like resume review panels every week for students, and
Incredible.
because like I feel like I want to help them as much as I can, and like I do partnerships with the companies that I work with directly with students,
Turn right on
and
3rd Avenue.
partnering them with universities. Everything happens like looking at like what students are missing is like how to express them, even just going through resumes, or like they don't know the idea like how to do this, how to do that. Like they form like the circle. They are in when you come to US or any other country, like you want to expand your circle. Like they feel like you want to expand your circle, but you cannot. Like how do you do that? Or like how do you find your job? How do you what is the right cut for you? Like let's say you're basically doing like getting 100K or 150K annual pay, and these are the problems that I've faced, as well as like I feel it would work. And basically you finished almost 30% of my questions in one.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I feel like, adding to what you said, even if you were to, were the few people who were to easily find a job, or, yeah, basically, even if you were to be employed, like for immigrants who are on work visas, you're then tied to the job. You're then tied to that employer for a very long time. And your ability to stay in this country is tied to, someone else, right? And that in general, like, causes or like creates this like
Continue on current road for 8 miles.
In this market.
In a quarter mile, traffic light, camera.
People are looking for flexibility. People really want to learn about different options that they have, because you need a fallback option. Even if you're very happy with your current employer, like, right? I think like just having that knowledge of like, okay, like anything were to happen, like this is the other option I have. And like, every year there is over 1 million like international students in the US
coming in.
Yeah, and similarly like over 1 million like people coming in through like work visas, right? So these are like highly skilled people who want to work, who want to contribute, right? International students alone contribute 40 billion to the US economy every year.
Wow.
Yeah. So the economic like impact is also very high.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I think, when you see people, when you identify people with high potential, and if you compare like high potential people or like people with potential in general with opportunities and exposure, that can be life changing, and it can, really
change
beneficial
benefit.
for, the like greater good, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because like currently so many, even in the startup
Turn
space,
left onto
like everyone is trying to bridge with like people who are doing really good things like startups and outside other countries, bringing it to US, or like even focusing on those founders, and like just immigrant founders. They are huge part currently of the ecosystem. Like everyone who are making impacts, some of them in billions of dollars, is like
over half the companies that are unicorns were started by immigrant founders.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And immigrants are also more likely to be entrepreneurs. Like back home, you don't just do one thing, you do a couple of things. Also because of the economy back home.
Yeah.
That's how we grew up, right?
Yeah.
So immigrants are, more likely to be entrepreneurs. They're very resilient. Like when you talk about resilience and perseverance, like that's just like a given. If you're an immigrant, you have to have those qualities, right?
I agree with you. Like immigrants do a lot of things. I do agree, like immigrants have to take so many challenges to come here.
Do you drive around the city often?
Yeah, I kind of like driving around the city because just like no, like not about parking.
Okay.
Leave the parking aside. If you're not parking in the city, like driving around the city is fun.
Okay.
And I have there is no traffic.
Really?
Yeah, that's surprising. Like especially like I call it as hot zones. So one is like Lincoln Tunnel, avoid the tunnels, and you're basically good, and avoid the Manhattan Bridge,
Yeah. That makes sense.
and you're pretty much good like most of the places. What is your co-founder chemistry like?
Then, yeah, my co-founder chemistry, that's a great question. I've known Vika for a few years, like I said, and I think having the ability to work with someone known for, quite a few years, that you've spent quite a bit of time talking about the exact issues that you're now together trying to solve, like that feels really good. And so her background, is essentially in investment banking, venture, so really on the financial side of things, business development, right? And my background, on the other hand, is building products, engineering, and just have been in the startup space from the get-go. So it's quite complementary in a lot of ways, and also helps that she is, a little bit younger than I am. Like when I started she's basically the age that I was when I started my first company. And I think, that is quite complimentary, because before we started recording this, we were talking about how, being a first-time founder, there's a charm to it, right? Like you don't know everything, that you're going to experience, so you kind of go into it with this like sort of like confidence and this,
Everything.
vision, and you don't know how hard it's also going to be. Whereas for a second-time founder, like
It's like you cracked your formula for especially that scenario or that case, and you just like, I want this, I want that, go.
Yeah. So like I think it's quite complimentary in that manner. And yeah, it's been really enjoyable working alongside her. Especially like this summer is when we both went full time on IMERA. And when we started working on this full time together, I mean, we've just achieved so much in the past like 2-ish months that we've been we went full time. So it's exciting.
No, I agree. Like going full time on startup has its own perks. Only thing is like you need to have that support system to support. Let's say 6 months. 6 months you need to build the bank balance of EK or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we started talking about IMERA earlier this year, we spent a bit of time validating the idea, sort of the model. And once we graduated from that stage, we both went full time. This summer we spent that time. So initially, actually, my thinking was, okay, like let me go raise a little bit of money for this, and so we can like go heads down, like start to build and like launch like a little pilot. However, summer is not the best time to fundraise at all. So we had to adjust our plans, and what we ended up doing, which I think I am really grateful that we did, is we spent that time essentially securing a lot of partnerships, which is one of the 3 pillars that we focus on. with a lot of essential services that are built for immigrants, because so much of the time when you're navigating life in the US, like you don't know which services cater to internationals when you move. Like you don't have a social security number, you don't have a credit history, you might not even know what those things are for a while. Right?
How do you get your part-time internships?
Yeah, exactly. And there's like so many different types of paperwork you fill out for different things. There's like do's and don'ts, right? But yeah, so like we focused on securing a lot of partnerships that helped with all, a bunch of these like different challenges. And we also spent a lot of time focusing on our go-to-market. So securing distribution partners. So even though we are building something that's, T2C or like for consumers, we spent a lot of time basically developing our go-to-market strategy. So we're using and we're partnering with universities and other organizations to basically provide our services to their communities, because they already do, a bunch of different things. Like if you're a student, your university might have an international admissions office, like student services, right? However, there are limitations to what they can and can't do, and that's where we see IMERA coming in, being able to provide the advice and guidance that they can't, right? And like a university can recommend most likely that, this is the bank that you should use, like all these different things, and that's where we can come in. So we spent the summer building those partnerships out, and now, we have an audience of, around like 30,000
That's a really
students that's ready to be activated when we launch our product.
huge achievement, actually. Like even before launching the product, like making sure your distribution channels are ready, and like what were your challenges when you were approaching your distribution channel? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it gradually started out a certain way, and then we did have to adjust sort of our a model. Actually, let's start. Yeah, so in terms of challenges, when we were going through that process, we actually initially were going to
0.2 mile speed camera ahead per hour speed limit.
a million of them in the US every single year, and around 300,000 new students come to the US every single year. So we initially thought, okay, that's a decent pipeline of new students who come in for us to like basically start off with. However, we quickly realized that one, our own networks and people who were coming to us asking, when can they use our services, or they'd love to this would be super helpful, were non-students, first of all. And a lot of the people that I was also personally helping through their visas, they were on, work visas. And even when we were having conversations with, people who've built big companies before, or like VCs, wanted us to focus on a slightly larger market than just students. And also historically, like students are a harder market to sort of, we decided to expand from just building for students to the larger market, essentially. So that was, I say, our biggest pivot or change from when we initially started. And yeah, so many little things along the way that we adjusted our strategy on.
that's kind of interesting strategy as well, like going through targeting international students because you're focusing on it, and partnering with universities as well, as like that would give good amount of users actually.
Yeah, exactly. But also with international students, because by the time you get to them, if you don't actually if we weren't going after students, or if we weren't building for students, then by the time that they're in the workforce, they're already at a disadvantage because they don't know what they might need to know, right? They don't know what their options are. And for those so you wanna get to
Guidance will be at this volume.
and give them access to the information that they need to know and exposure to different options while they still have that privilege of time.
No, I agree with you. Like thinking back, like what you said, like targeting earlier before it is too late for them.
Yeah. Like you just have a larger impact when you're able to get to, people as early as possible.
Yeah. Like you're basically like helping them. It's like helping a kid when they're younger to give right tools to grow properly.
They might not have the same sense of urgency that, someone who's here on a work visa for, X amount of time like we have. Or like perhaps even like, when you talk about students, there's undergrads versus grads. Undergrads, you're here for 4 years versus grads, like 2 years. So the sense of urgency differs,
Yeah.
right? But again, in terms of impact, I believe that you really need to get to people as early as possible and just educate them about their options.
I agree with you. What do you think like it was biggest advantage when you're going through your distribution channels or like the startup had? Because like all the resources are available, but at the same time, like at different places. What do you think like it was the biggest advantage for you that allowed the partnership or like enabled the trust?
Yeah, a couple things. First being, I already had a network of individuals I could approach because at my last company, I also worked with universities and sold to them, to student organizations before, so I already had relationships that I could approach. And, also like this time around, I think the biggest sort of advantage was the fact that I was just trying to partner with them for free. I wasn't trying to sell to them, and that is a very different conversation. Like those two things combined, I think, were what helped us get started. So we approached our own like alma maters and just people that we had in our network to begin with.
Yeah.
And just from those like handful number of conversations, like they have international student bodies of around 30,000 combined. And that's, a good enough community, like population for us to get started with in terms of doing a pilot.
Let me know if you need more. I also have contacts with my alma maters.
Yeah, exactly. And every time we talk to someone like who's an immigrant and who's been there, they're like, you should talk to my university. We're like,
yeah, that's like very helpful. Like I would say like that would have been very useful tool, like even for the future people who are coming in. And it is very impactful in a way that like only the people faced it will understand it.
Exactly.
And people from outside do not understand very well.
Exactly. And that's actually a point that has come up so many times in conversations, both with students and non-students. So in terms of an example for a student conversation, I was chatting with someone a couple of weeks ago who had expressed how, their universities did have a good like international student like support system and resources. However, like their advisor, like they were never an international student or they're not an immigrant. So they're a good advisor, but like they've never been in their shoes before.
Yeah.
And that does make a difference in a whole lot of ways. And I think just having the ability to like learn from and hear from people who've been there before, who know how painful it can be, because there's so many parts of this like process that you can't quantify. It's like emotional, it's mental, it's so many other things that when you have the ability to basically learn from and gain knowledge from people who've been there before, who know how hard it can be, it's really valuable.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Like it is even like when I was doing masters, a lot of people during COVID, so building like relationship with like just your seniors.
How was
It was
by the way?
Which one during COVID? Don't ask. But lucky I had like I was working in a research lab, so I was initially thinking doing PhD. So like my goal was like not. So then like family circumstances came in, and then I was like, oh, but at the same time, where do I want to be in? Like, if not this, what is the thing that I could do? And then like immediately I was like, dear professor, I cannot do PhD. Please accept my apology. You gave me like all this, and I'm still in contact with him today. But like what I've seen is like it was hard to get into touch with the community, even for master students, like during COVID. And the connections that you want to have, it was not had. So like I had to invent my own ways to get in touch and then like plan for maybe okay, H1B is not there, not happening. What is the next? Like what are the things like that was like, I would say most like hectic. I would say like you basically have, as we are saying, like you're saying, mental as well as like it actually goes to physical health as well, because once your mental health gets affected,
Yeah, and that's why sleep is important.
my 3 hours of sleep.
Which is a conversation we were having before,
Yeah.
started recording. But yeah, sleep is, basic things that are very important, like sleep, just nutritious food, exercise, like just getting enough sunlight and vitamin D, especially if you live in New York City
Yeah.
in the winters, right? Just very basic things, so important.
Yeah, no, like I'm constantly exercising, but at the same time, like my sleep has been like, I think because it brings out the ambitious side of me, like when things are very challenging, like I call it as fighter mode. So I go into the fighter mode.
Yeah, I have no idea what you can and can't do as a driver, so wrong person to ask.
It's okay. Sometimes when they give no signal, that means they're giving green signal. That's what.
So my mother actually was one of the few, or actually the only woman I know who used to drive, like back in, back in the days in Nepal.
Mm.
So she really wanted me to learn how to drive because, back home, like that was a big thing. Women didn't drive. They didn't have cars. Like they didn't really go out to work. They were housewives, right? Or homemakers. And even when I was little, apparently when my mom like asked me or like told me that, oh, you need to learn how to drive when you're older, I would apparently tell her, no, I'm just gonna hire a driver. Like why would And now we live in a world of Ubers, which
Yeah. And Waymo.
I haven't tried that. Have you tried it?
I've tried it like a couple of times. It's actually like really good in a sense. Like it reached beyond my expectation. And only thing like I struggled in the first time, like I'm like, okay, you have to say like the car to stop. Like even once you reach the destination as well. So it will look at a safe point to stop. So I did not know when to say. So that was like hilarious thing. So I think, and yeah, good learnings.
Did you try it in SF?
Yeah. I feel like Waymo was like really gonna be, it will have a good future because it is one of the first robot taxis. And only thing is people are not accepting it. And given like how Uber and how the policies are changing, like let's say even in New York, just want to get an airport ride, it is from here to airport is like $140 or something like that, $100.
And I think you can, I forget how much they cost, what the difference between hailing a Uber copter from the city to JFK, like there isn't a large difference if the ride is costing like $120, $40.
It was like, I think I even checked like one time the Blade copter, it was like $250 or something like that time. And it was like off peak even for the helicopter. So I was like,
you can split that cost with someone, and that's your Uber right there.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
And I think there was one additional service like that sends the car to get you and drop you off at Blade. I think there is like extended like platform that does that.
For like the Waymos, you remind me of, I don't know if you watched that movie. Is it Don't Look Up? Or basically, yeah. Have you watched it?
I watched Don't Look Up. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same movie that I have in my head. Bad with names for what is. Last night I was playing Heads Up with my friends. Like it was terrible. So
it's okay.
That explains.
Okay. I'm also not good in board games except Catan.
Oh, I used to love Catan when I was in college. I haven't played it ever since, but we used to like stay up all night playing Catan.
Next time we'll do your friends and my friends do Catan like seriously. We'll see who will win.
I love in general like board games and playing different things and I like good sports. and I get really competitive, even though it might, like, I might have
Mhm.
never played something before, or I absolutely suck at it. I just like the hype.
No, I do. I agree. There are several good board games, but at the same time, like it's hard to understand or win. So once you get hang of like understanding, it's good time.
Yeah, yeah. I spent a lot of nights, well, not a lot, but a handful of 5 a.m.s where we stayed up all night with our friends, where I basically bankrupted every single one of them in Monopoly.
Oh,
And like, and then one time, like our friends, they were like, okay, we need to redo this.
mhm.
Let's do it the second night in a row, and we're gonna beat you. Bankrupted them.
That's why you're a good startup founder.
Yeah.
I used to play Monopoly with my parents than my friends. My friends were more into PUBG and all. I'm really bad at shooting games.
Tried, but I'm not good.
So Monopoly, I used to like bankrupt my parents, and my parents will be like, "Don't bankrupt us. We are your food. We are giving you food." So that was like my board games. Like later after I moved here, there's a new section of board games. I liked it. I loved it. Coming back, what do you think like founders, even like before we were talking about how should founder do fundraise? This is for knowledge for first time founders. What do you think like best strategy like for first time founders to do the fundraise?
So there is more or less a playbook that you can follow. It's a checklist of things that you have together, including like I think the most important is what's your story, right?
Mm.
Like why are you doing this? Why do you care about this? And why are you the right person to do this? Do you have any like advantages or insights into this specific challenge and solution that you're building? Like those are like the basics that you need to nail down, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like more like tactical things or, just being organized in the sense of, okay, like here's, all the research that you did before you actually started, or, when you started working on this, having that together in a data room. Here's like, basically like just putting all those like that information in one place. So it's really easy for the investor or the potential partner on the other side to like understand, okay, and see that you've done your research, you're the right person to do this. There's clearly a large enough market for this to be, if you're raising venture funding, like to be venture backed, right? Early stage, I think there's a bit of, do you need one? Do you not need one in terms of a financial like model? But, you can build a very simple one on Excel or Google Sheets, right? But just having a good understanding of how, economics works with your business, right? How they're going to work. Like those are just like fundamentals that you need to have down. And then after that, it's so much more about, okay, like who, like, are you talking to the right person? So in different funds with different like focuses, whether it's in terms of industry or stage. So who are going to be your people, your partners in the long run? So it's about finding the right person.
Yeah.
The thing that's harder, I think, for first-time founders, especially if you don't already have network and if you haven't been in the industry for too long, is just not getting enough, like not having to get warm introductions, for example, and you're having to do a lot of cold reach outs or just trying to be creative and finding ways to get to people. I think that is the hardest thing because it is significantly easier to raise money when you get like 10 warm introductions to like the best VCs or your wish list of individuals that you want to raise money from. And if you're getting warm introductions from people that they trust, right?
Yeah.
So I think for first-time founders, like that is a challenge, and especially for people who don't have the network, don't have the privilege of the network, but who do have that potential. You do have to be, put resilience and push through. Also sometimes like throw a bunch of darts in the wall and see what sticks, right?
Yeah.
What I think to begin with is having those fundamentals like nailed down, and then trying to increase your proximity of like people who can get you to the right people, or like just getting in front of the right people is the second like.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I'm hearing like when I was talking to a lot of people, what they said is like even your user story, like how you want to show it to users is entirely different compared to how you want to show it to investors is different.
Because for users, you're solving a problem. For investors, a lot about how are you going to build your business, scale your business, and make that money. And those are different conversations, right? There's definitely an overlap. But if it was a Venn diagram, like there's an overlap, but very different things.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like I see the Venn diagram, like for mine, even though like you see how complex your vision is, like you see like huge lot of things in your vision, but at the same time you have to have the ability to communicate it clearly to users what it is, as well as like to VCs and investors, like what are you going to do with like 1 million I'm giving you? What are you going to do with the 1 million?
Exactly. Like, how are you going to use the funds?
Yeah.
And what do you need it for?
Yeah.
And if you can't, like, articulate a clear plan for use of funds, like, why would I give you money, right? So, I mean, these are hopefully very, like, basic things that you are already working on, fundamentals, right? And, it's also helpful to think about, if you were on the other side, like, why would you trust someone to, like, go do this thing, this big thing? And also, like, does this have, ask yourself questions like, can this be a billion-dollar company? Be realistic with, like, that type of conversation, because that's going to come up when you're having those conversations with VC. Just don't be afraid to ask yourself hard questions, and it's always very, very helpful to have thought about something. You might not have an answer for it, but to even have thought about it in some shape or form is really helpful when those questions like come up in conversations. You don't want to be in positions essentially where you just don't have an answer, and sometimes that does happen, which is fine. And in those moments, just
you could say you can come back to it, or
then when you say you will come back to it, do come back to it. Like,
within
it helps build trust, so that you're actually going to do what you say you're going to do. But a lot of times you want to have at least thought about it if you don't have an answer for it.
My goal of coming back to it is like, if I say come back to it, I will come back after meeting, just going out of it, go to the nearest cafe, figure out, and directly message.
And that's also, again, like, when thinking through, like, different things, it's about, okay, like, here's this, like, thoughts, or, like, this question that I don't have an answer to right now. And if you're not going to spend any more time on it at the moment, like, why are you deprioritizing it at the moment, right? Just even, like, answering the why as simply as possible to your own self, so that the next time it comes up with someone else, you can, like, state, this is something I've thought about. However, I decided to, like, basically not give it more time at the moment because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And instead, this is what I focused on, right? So just, like, having, again, like, spend some time in answering those basic, like, what is it? Why, does it matter or does it not matter at the moment? And how it's going to impact your company either now or in the future.
Makes sense. It is very insightful. Like, for one is like founder story. Like when I was going through early stage, like, Eric Pan, he said like what we see is like story and relevance, how you could solve, as well as like who are your team, like how are you building your team, and screw financials, like Santan does not matter because it's your day one company. How are you approaching execution? Like how do you these are like the things that matter. It's like building a relationship, and like you want to have an honest relationship when you're building something. So that is like very good to have for when you're doing fundraising, or like even with your users, or any company needs to be honest to their users. It's not. On the other question, follow-up question, warm introductions. How did you develop your first, like, all these warm introductions? Like, what was your strategy, like, developing those?
For IMERA, I built a company before this, scaled it to a certain, like, stage, and generally, like, people know what I've built. A bunch of people know what I've built, and like the summer I spent, reconnecting with some of the people that I met through my previous company, and a lot of them who understood sort of how compelling or challenging this like space is and how there's a dire need for a solution. They offered warm introductions to people that they know who would have been a good fit for IMERA. So that was super helpful. However, when I was doing this the first time, it was very different, right? At that time I was like 23, 24, almost ready to college more or less, on a student visa.
Yeah.
So, I was figuring out things as I was going through it, as I was building the company. And it was a lot of, experimenting, trying different things, failing a whole lot of times. And I still fail a whole lot of times, but now I just have a better understanding, experience, and network, so I can sort of reduce sort of the margin of error, so to speak. But before it was a lot of like throwing a lot of darts at the wall, seeing what sticks, experimenting, and just learning from mistakes.
That is a interesting way to learn. Like, I feel like I'm still doing like all these, I'm creating my own formula per se, because like you do this, you do that, you make mistakes. Like my first like product evaluation was like food boxes for students, like for at that point of time groceries were increasing.
Yeah.
So I went to the source, but at the same time, like there was a lot of competition in the market. So I'm like, no, this is not gonna happen. And then like I came to my current startup, and then like I used to throw like a lot of events back in San Francisco as well as in LA during COVID.
Yeah,
And
kind of events.
it's like mostly like meetup events, like, but at the same time, I used to cook like 10, 20 dishes.
Wow. Wait, what did you cook? That's a lot.
I cooked like there will be like definitely 2 to 3 items of Indian food.
Yeah, like what are like the crowd favorites?
Actually, dosa, but like the pesarattu, we call it as like it's called pesarattu upma. So it's like a green dosa with like filling. So that was like crowd pleasers. They were like, oh, make it to who you wanted to be impressed with. They will definitely like
Wow.
make it to your partner. They'll stick.
Yeah, is that what you did?
I did that.
Incredible.
Yeah, I took the advice. I got like that feedback like almost from 40 people.
Okay, wow, that's a lot. And
Yeah.
also, like, I would love to try that dosa sometime.
Yeah, and other crowd pleasers were like, I invented like other kind of pastas. Like it's Italians will kill me, but like I basically made like basil pesto with like mint, and those are the two things you don't want to make. And
Very interesting.
and like had like different types of like cheeses like mixed into to make like existing, like how do you say, incorporating into like fusion dishes like Mexican dish like quesadillas. I did like made Thai foods, I made like French food. So like I did like do everything during COVID. And
Expect an invite to the next whatever get together you host where you cook.
definitely I'll cook a lot of food. So
Wow.
yeah, currently I'm basically got a care package from my mom, so I'm just on the go of cleaning it up.
Like, did she like send you spices and everything?
It's not spices, it's basically like pickle. So my home has like this thing like called coriander pickle, and it's not like found in, you cannot see in any other home like in that way and that fashion. Like you basically like fry coriander until it becomes a bit black, and like add like ton of tamarind juice and like some other secret recipe that they make.
I see.
Yeah, and then like my home has like one more style of eggplant dish making. So like they send the base. I still don't know the recipe, but I cracked it.
Nice.
So some of it I know, some of it like I make my own.
Yes,
So,
I love that.
so going through that, like I came to know all the pain points, and I'm like, can I do this or can I? Then I went to the source, like asking like farmers, hey, can you help me with this? Like, I want this. So I set up like 40 um like farms like in Palo Alto area. Then like got like all of them onboarded in just one weekend. That was like the biggest achievement because it never, what it does is basically connects like farms with like restaurants and restaurants with restaurants and people who wants to buy groceries, but like
Yeah.
interlinking with user events. So like smaller picture is that, but like the bigger picture is this. So I was like, I built the platform. So I'm basically using the platform just for that purpose, like instead of like solving everything.
Yeah. I love
So,
that. I have so many friends and who talk about essentially either trying to build our own farm when we have, a backyard in the future, or basically having access like nearby. Because even if you go upstate here in New York, like there's like or like in the weekends there's farmer markets, right? And it's just really like good food that's like really good for you. And I feel like when you look at the news every other week, there's like some random, very basic like item that we usually have all the time that has some type of outbreak that we were called, and you don't know what you're eating or putting into your body. And yeah, so great idea.
Recently, what I came to know is like I started finding like even the farms, like I started doing the research, like what kind of farm it is, like what kind of they do, so that I want to put that story out as well.
Yeah.
I started feeling it as like my own, I'm not gonna say my own farm, but like if I have my own farm, like how would I do it? Like that's like take away from it. I went to upstate like last weekend, not last, 2 weekends ago. And then I learned a lot as well. Like it's a small town. Everyone like has a place that they come and talk, and finding that place is not easy. But luckily, like I stumbled onto that place and everyone was like talking. They were like, come like any weekend, I'll take you here, there. Like they were like, I'm coming in the end of the month. That's what I said. And they were like, the upstate New York has like so many lakes, but the lakes is surrounded by so many farms. So I'm basically like visiting on the end of the month just to partner up with those farms. So hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, that sounds very fun as well. Just like going on a drive upstate in the fall. Yeah, like being able to also like spend time in nature because of what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I love nature as well. Like, and these are like things kept me interested, like solving, helping, preserving. Like when I come from India, like other places, I felt like nature has been destroyed. There are sparrows when I was a kid in India, and now like when in my town, like I don't see any sparrows. I'm like, what happened? Like just because radiation or whatever it is, like all the ecosystem that has been there has been destroyed. So like most of it. So it was like very sad for me. So I was like, I want to get good food, good things for a lot of people and make good memories. So that was like most driving factor.
Yeah. Also, I feel like in a lot of cultures, including I would assume yours and mine, so much of our memories and our culture revolves around food and enjoying food together, right? And yeah, an important part of our upbringing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like just like what I learned from my parents is like you're meeting someone, you take like some food, and I follow till today like whatever I can.
Yeah, thank you for the hot sauce.
The story of the hot sauce revolves in like me finding like vendors and all the food eh, all the food festivals in New York City. And then like I found this guy who basically started like hot sauce company, like himself cooking at home in 2018, and now he has his own home. He bought his home, and like now he has expanded into like multiple locations. What is your final message to listeners of the podcast? And
Yeah, I mean, if you're an aspiring founder, go do the thing that you've been thinking about. If you have an idea, take that next step. easier than you think, and you'll get there sooner, than you can imagine. And if you're an immigrant, we're building resources for you. Basically building the toolkit that I wish I had the past 10 years. So we look forward to essentially building for you. And if you have any questions or any guidance on your immigration journey, feel free to reach out. That's it.
Thank you for driving with me today and finish being in the podcast today. And also, I hope success for you
So,
and IMERA. And see you next time, guys.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Growing old with Liesl. Listen, Liesl, to Grandpa's tale, to be told ages hence. When you are grown up and I am gone, near 70 and 5, I am worn out and old. Yours at 5 is all innocence and ease. Listen, Liesl, to Grandpa's tale. When you came among us on earth, a rainbow was born across the sky. Mine will be lost in the clouds when I leave you, Liesl dear. Born of desire without an end, a succession of successes and failures. With you and me as links in a chain, life can be a ceaseless pain in the eternal quest for a happy end. A chain of changes every single moment, even after life. Life is as real as the rainbow, a flash of lightning, or a drop of dew on the lotus. Oh, how I wish I knew my grandpa. He was gone long before I came, making me poor and lone, and he missed all the fun of growing old before my eyes. Poor grandpa was yet young when an arrow came unseen one noon, and hit him hard, a notion in those days to speak of sudden stroke. Every old man needs a child like you to keep him warm with a ray of sunshine in his wintry years, when a child remains his only hope.